Hello, I'm going to be talking today about more tarot. So I'm adding to the tarot lesson playlist. So if you want to see all the tarot videos that I have up there, definitely click on the playlist and it'll just play through for you. And I wanted to go through the major arcana and the meanings of, because I haven't actually touched on that, and I often don't touch on it a whole lot in class because I do leave it up to you to kind of find the meanings. I do have a booklet that I hand out at every class, so this is the major arcana handout. Today in this video I'm going to attempt to go through 0 through 10. So I have my handout here that I do use. And then I've got my giant box of the Rider-Waite-Smith. Now they don't have Smith on here. So just to give a little background about this deck, because this is a deck that if you're taking tarot lessons, most teachers will want you to start with this deck, because this is sort of considered the tarot deck of the modern day. So Rider and Waite. So Rider, I believe, was the money behind the deck. Waite was sort of the writing behind the deck and, you know, like the composition. And then Smith, who was a woman, these two guys were guys, Smith, who was a woman, was the artist of the deck. And unfortunately, she did not get the proper credit that she was due. A lot of the new cards, like a lot of the Rider-Waite-Smith, I call it Rider-Waite-Smith because I want to recognize her, include a card in it that's all about her and give some of the history of her in an attempt to give credit where credit is due. Because she died penniless, I believe, and did not get sort of the same kind of financial rewards that the other two got from this deck. So the tarot deck, so also too, the reason why a lot of classes and teachers will want you to start with this deck is because it's the deck that most books will refer to. Once you know this deck, you can translate it over to any other deck. So that's why it's like good to start with this deck. The other thing about this deck is when they say it's based off of the tarot system, any other deck that you can get, they're referring to the Rider-Waite system. And like I said, a lot of books, when they're talking about tarot decks, one of the tarot decks they'll most often use is the Rider-Waite-Smith. They'll be referring to this deck. So the other thing too with these cards is, as the artist, Pamela Smith, nothing was put on these cards accidentally. Everything, every image, every color, that sort of thing is put there on purpose. And I find this is a great deck to begin with. This is the deck I learned on. And it's a deck, and now I'm teaching with it. And it's a deck I kind of come back to again and again. And I almost learn new stuff every time I come back to it. It's very simplistic, especially compared to some of the other more modern day tarot. And there's something for everyone out there. There's, you know, zombie tarot, and there's baseball tarot, and there's cat tarot, and there's skull tarots, and I've got Tarot in Wonderland because I'm a big Alice in Wonderland fan, and I've got all kinds of other tarot decks, you know, and there's, like I said, there's something for everyone. There's fairy tarot, there's angel tarot. Now there are angels in the actual tarot deck as well. So I'm going to go through some of these cards. I'm going to start, like I said, from 1 to 10 in the major arcana. So to talk about, and this is my big deck, so just to give you an example of scale. So this is my working deck, and this is the gilded tarot deck that I use. This is a bag made for me by my friend Diane. I keep my tarot decks in silk bags often, especially my working ones, because silk is a very protective covering. So it'll keep the deck safe from any negativity that's either, if someone picks it up in its bag like this, negativity can't attach itself, or any kind of malicious kind of feelings people might have towards you if they're jealous of you or whatever. So silk is always the best covering. You can use a silk scarf. You don't have to do a bag. My friend's just good at sewing, and she made me up this bag, and she knows I like tassels, and she knows I love skulls, so especially sugar skulls. So this is my working deck, and I keep it in there when I'm not using her. So like I said, just to give you an example of the size of these cards, so they're quite a bit bigger. This is, you can get this off of Amazon too. I'll put a link in the video below if you want a giant Rider-Waite-Smith deck as well. I normally use these just for visual props. I don't really use these for readings. One, because they take up so much room. It's like a 3-card spread takes up the whole table. And you know, they're not easily shuffled and stuff like that. So I often have them in order. So that being said, I do have the Major Arcana. So this is one half, this is the other half. Almost always separated out. And then there's the Minor Arcana of the tarot. So I'm not sure if I've gone through this, so I'll just briefly go through this. So the Minor Arcana you'll recognize, because the Minor Arcana is your playing card deck, and it came from the medieval original tarot decks. So tarot goes way, 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 way back, and there's a lot of cloudiness and stuff like that about when tarot first kind of came into existence. But that being said, the cards that you play with from the playing card deck came from tarot. And you know, some of the cards aren't all in there. See, this is the Giant Rider-Waite-Smith deck, because there's the court cards. You'll know those as Jack, Queen, and Kings. In the tarot, they also have knights, so they've added a 4th court card. I'll be doing a video just on the court cards themselves, because sometimes they can be challenging. They have the 4 suits, just like in playing cards. However, in tarot, some places for tarot do call them by hearts and diamonds and stuff like that. But in tarot, generally speaking, now there are exceptions and variations to the rules, as you've seen from other videos when I've used other decks. Some decks let you decide what it's going to be. Some decks say, this is, you know, the new pentacles, these are the new cups, these are the new swords, and these are the new wands. So the suits, a lot of people wonder, where did the suits come from? What did they you know, why did they pick 4? Well, 4 represented the station in life in medieval times of what you were. So the swords were royalty, and the knights that went out to fight and all that kind of stuff. So that's where swords came from. Wands were the peasants who worked in the fields. Cups represented the statesmen, clergy, that sort of realm kind of thing. And the pentacles were the merchant class. So that just gives you an idea of where the suits came from. Now they mean different things now. They don't always mean that station in life anymore, because that was like back in the 13 to 1500s kind of idea. So that was quite a ways ago. But when I do the videos on the different suits, I will explain more about that, because I could go on and on about the suits. But we're looking at the Major Arcana. So like I said, there's 2 decks kind of in your tarot deck. One is the Minor Arcana. Like I said, you'll recognize that as your playing cards. You know, it's a bit familiar for you. And then there's the Major Arcana. So the Major Arcana tend to look at the big picture, talk about big swings or big changes in life. They're a little more dramatic. Now, there's a lot that's been, the Major Arcana has been used for. It's also a journey. It's a hero's quest of sorts. I actually use the Major Arcana in my Heap of Abundance program. So HEAP stands for Happily Ever After program, because the idea is that this Fool here is supposed to interact with each of the Major Arcana cards. And with each of the Major Arcana cards, there's supposed to be a life lesson. Now, there is a little bit of a legend that says Each of these cards represents a leaf from the Book of the Dead that the Egyptians had. And the Book of the Dead was supposed to be lessons that humankind, not just men, women and men, needed to learn in order to reach full enlightenment. So that's kind of where these come from. And this is sort of our journey that we need to go on. So there's 22 altogether cards in the Major Arcana. The Fool is unique because he's numberless. Now the Fool is interesting because the Fool represents the Joker in your playing cards. So in modern day tarot, you'll only have one Fool. So the playing card deck, even of modern day, have two Jokers or two Fools. So that is a nod as a respect to the old tarot. And that's where it comes from. So the Fool, like I said, is supposed to interact and talk to each of the cards and learn that lesson, because we're all the Fool. The Fool represents us. And learn the lessons. And so the first Fool in your deck, often decks will have like a black and white Joker and then a fully colored Joker. So the black and white Joker is us starting out on our journey and learning all these lessons. And then the Fool learns all the lessons of the tarot, all 21 lessons, and he becomes enlightened. And that's when he gets the colors. So that's why your modern day playing card deck has two Jokers in it. But the modern day tarot only has one Fool. And like I said, the Fool, he can represent us one way or the other. Most of the time it's the Fool on the journey, because very few of us are actually enlightened or fully enlightened. Some of us are more enlightened than others, but you know, probably no one walking this planet is like in full enlightenment, because then why are you here? But like I said, it's one of the most significant cards because it is the only one that is numberless. He has no number at all. So he represents the innocent. He represents our inner child. And he's kind of got that inner child energy of, you know, not being jaded, of innocence, of childlike curiosity, that sort of thing. And he's searching for the secrets of life, as we all are. And when it shows up, it often means that the client is looking for some spiritual guiding, and maybe some protection, is, you know, perhaps, you know, wanting to start out on a new adventure. Now, the only warning that kind of comes with the Fool is that sort of the saying, where angels fear to tread. Because the Fool, as you can see, he's got his bag packed, right? And it's a beautiful sunny day. He's holding a white rose. You'll see this white rose again on the death card, because it represents that new beginning, that new hope, that new door opening. So he's got the white rose in his hands. He's got his little dog with him, and he's walking off a cliff, just like the coyote and Bugs Bunny. But the nice thing is, like, so that's the only warning. Like, he's not looking, he's looking up, and he's just stepping. But that, it also represents that step that you need to take when you're stepping into the unknown, when you're making a big change in your life, and it's a little bit scary, and it's like, oh my God, you know, I feel like I'm stepping off a cliff and I might fall. But the beauty of the Fool is that he'll land on his feet. He's kind of like a cat that way. He's going to land on his feet. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful opportunity. And so he, like I said, he's got that childlike innocence about him. The Fool indicates a refreshing experience, although sometimes chaotic. So it can become chaotic before you take that step, right? But like I said, he's in no real danger. He'll end up landing on his feet. And like I said, the only warning is if you haven't really thought it through, then you may be treading where angels fear to go, kind of thing. So the Fool in the court had a very special place because he, like I said, he was sort of the king's alter ego. He was the jester. He was the person that made fun of and teased a little each of the people in the court when they were having their big banquets and dinners and whatnot. Now, he held a lot of very sensitive information because a lot of times people kind of downplayed the Fool. Like, they would say things openly that were secrets when the Fool was around because, well, he's just the Fool, right? So he knew a lot of stuff. He was also under special privilege many times of, he was the only one that could make fun of the king and not suffer, you know, dire circumstances because of it. Because he was hired by the king, he was appointed by the king, and he was there to entertain the crowds and, like I said, kind of teasingly play with the crowds. So he was the only one that could make fun of the king and not worry about losing his head. And like I said, he held a lot of secrets and a lot of information. And this is sort of what this pack here that he's got is supposed to represent, because we hold a lot more information than we realize, and we have a lot more knowledge and a lot more skills and talents and gifts than we often realize. And as we're stepping off that cliff, we're often very scared that we don't have enough skill, we don't have enough talent, we don't have enough whatever kind of thing. So when this shows up, it's usually a good sign in a reading. You know, it means, oh, new beginnings, new things. And I often warn people, like, but go in with that childlike innocence, and go in with that childlike non-judgment as well. Because children are so curious. They'll just embrace everything. They'll take that step and they'll fall down, but they'll get back up. As adults, we kind of create a fear around that. And we also will go in prejudging things, you know, like, well, I don't know if this is for me, and I don't know if I'm good enough, or I think it's going to turn out this way, and I'm prejudging, I don't want to be here, you know, or I don't want to learn this skill because I'm never going to use it, or whatever. We make all these prejudgments and set up all these blocks. When this shows up, oftentimes I'll ask a client, do you have an opportunity coming, or do you know of an opportunity you've been offered yet? And if they haven't been offered yet, then I say, well, there's probably one coming, and you need to take off all those judgments and you need to embrace it. So like I said, it's a good card when it shows up. Gotta wet my whistle a little bit. And then we're on to the Magician. So the Magician is the first sort of teacher that the Fool meets. Skipping along his trail, and he meets the Magician. Now the Magician is sometimes called the commencement card. And he's a wise mage. He's about wisdom, skill, confidence, and an active lifestyle. He's always about action. I kind of compare him to a piano teacher. He makes you take those first steps. So when you decide you want to play the piano, you can't just sit down and play, you know, Where's All the Music Gone, or whatever song that you're kind of trying to play. You have to do scales. Everyone knows about scales. Do, 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 do. And, you know, they're tedious, they're boring. You get sick of them. People listening to them get sick of them. But you need to do that muscle memory for your fingers so you know where the keys are and you understand where the scales are and where the notes are and all that kind of stuff. So he's that annoying teacher who's going to make you do those scales. But it's that first step that you have to get through in order to move on and play Beethoven's Fifth kind of thing. So like I said, he's all about action. You can see that he's got on his table a pentacle, a cup, a sword, and a wand. And this is because this is in this Fool's bag. That's what's in the Fool's bag. The Fool has all the tools he needs. He has all the potential that he needs. He has all the skills he needs. It's just a matter of utilizing them. And like I said, the Magician will kind of make him utilize them. He's that first step. He's got the infinity symbol over his head because he's about infinite opportunities opening up. And he's pointing to the ground, and he's got his own scepter or wand, and he's holding it up to the sky because he's also reminding us of our connection, our divine connection to the heavens, and also to stay grounded to Mother Earth. So he's that, you know, in between kind of place. And when you cast a magic circle, when you're casting a spell, you're in the in-between worlds, as it's called. So this card represents the strength of the conscious forces coming together with the unconscious. So it's a first step of bringing the conscious and unconscious together so that we start to become in alignment with the universe. Now you'll notice that this is a reoccurring theme on this particular deck. There's rose bushes here and rose garlands up here. And then there's lilies as well. These white flowers are lilies. So roses represent the feminine divine. Like Mary, for instance, the Mother Mary has roses as her sort of flower. There's many holy kind of goddesses and saints, female saints that have roses as their flower. And the rose flower, of course, is the queen of the flowers. And then you've got the lilies, and they represent the masculine energy. So they're the balance to the rose. And that's the bringing together, because he's connecting earth and heaven. And he's also bringing together the masculine and feminine energy, because we have both within us, sort of the yin yang, because the yin yang also represents the masculine and feminine energy. And we have both within us, and it's a matter of balancing both. And that's what creates the harmony that we're always looking for. So when the magician shows up, now some of there's old kind of ways of thinking of some of these cards. This is sort of the more modern and, frankly, I kind of think more enlightened way of thinking of it. So he's all about starting to bring that wholeness together, and also about bringing that first step. And he's about action, unpacking the bag, sitting down and playing the scales, and sort of recognizing some of our strengths and learning to accept them. So then we move on to the High Priestess. Now the High Priestess, she's a very mysterious woman. She was also called the female Pope. Part of the reason why for a little while the popes had banned tarot, because they didn't like the whole idea of the female pope. In the Mother Maiden Crone, she is considered the maiden or the virgin. Now, virgin, when we talk mystical terms, we're not talking about someone who hasn't lost their virginity. We're talking about a priestess. Priestesses were often considered priestesses. Like there's the Vestal Virgins of the Greek times. Now, a lot of ways that you could worship the Greek Vesta, or the goddess Vesta, was by performing sacred and ritual sex. And so these virgins were a way of men being able to come in and worship the goddess Vesta. And so they were called the Vestal Virgins. They were not virgins, but they were priestesses. So this is the High Priestess. And like I said, she represents the virgin, because virgin is actually another word for knowledge as well. So she represents the virgin of the maiden Mother Crone, or the maiden kind of thing. So she represents, he's very much about the consciousness. I mean, he's starting to bring the conscious with the unconscious or the subconscious together. She is definitely about the subconscious forces. And she's about mysterious truths. She's about the truth that we can't see. She's about the intangible. See, he made us sit down and play the scales. He unpacked our bag and put the tools on the table. He's physically showing us the connection between heaven and earth. She not so much. She's sitting on her throne. She's got many phases of the moon. She's got the full moon here, and then the crescent moon's here. She's got another crescent moon here. Her dress is flowing down into the water. There's always a river running under her, and you'll see that in many other tarot decks, that there's usually a river near her. She's got two pillars here. A lot of people were asking me what the B and the J stand for. And they're demon names, actually. I can't remember I'll have to look that up again. But these pillars are sort of, she's sitting between the two pillars. So they also represent that balance that she's got. And she's got a little bit of a curtain here. And you'll notice that there's usually some kind of doorway or curtain or something back there behind her. She's got pomegranates on here, which represent the female. And then she's got palm trees, which represent the male. So she's also about the male and female energy coming into balance. She's got the equal-sided cross on her chest. There's much debate as to what scroll she's holding, but she's the rumor is it's the Torah. And behind this curtain is a doorway to a set of books of other knowledge that we are not yet ready to see. So she's guarding this doorway because we're not ready for that knowledge. But she's all about being still. And she, like I said, she's got that water that's very calm, that's flowing very easily under her. And again, it's no accident that she's number 2 because she's about balance. She's also about choices because 2s and tarots are about balance, but also about choice. So it's about that choice of stepping forward, taking that next step to that next level. Because after the activity of the magician, you're now having to step into the stillness of the High Priestess. She's got 2 sides to her. So these 2 towers, there's no accident that one's black and one's white, represent sort of the light side and the dark side of her, as we all have too. So her light side is, you know, patience and understanding, forbearance, kindness, and willingness to forgive. And she's about meditation and forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, letting those things go so that your waters too can flow smoothly. She's focused on helping and healing and power over the unconscious forces to help and to help others. Now her dark side can be very dark. So this is the dark sister side kind of thing. Some books have referred to her on her dark side as a witch, to seduce, paralyze, and even damage others. But and she's actually one of like the Christian view, because there's many Christians that use tarot, and tarot's been in the Christian world for a long time as well. But the Christian view is that she's the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, right? That's the reason she represents the maiden of the maiden, mother, crone, the 3 stages of a woman's life. So and that's the reason she's also in this particular blue, because this is Virgin Mary's blue, right? So this is the first of the protection cards in tarot. So I've almost gone half an hour on just 2 cards. So, or 3 cards actually. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to break it up a little bit so you're not having to sit here for hours listening to me talk about cards, because I could go all day. But I'll do one more. So we're going to go into the Empress. So the Empress is the mother. So she's the maiden mother, and we'll get to the crone. The crone's a ways down yet. So the Empress, she's number 3. She's also about movement forward, because the number 3 is all about that. But the Empress represents abundance. And you'll notice here, like she's in a pomegranate dress, actually, I believe it is. But she's pregnant. And most of the time you'll see that the Empress is pregnant, because again, she's about abundance. And the ultimate act of abundance is bringing life into this world, as women can do. So she too also has a river near her. She has a shield with the feminine or the Venus sign on it. So, and the shield is heart-shaped. She's all about infinite power of nature. She's very earth-based, that kind of thing. So she kind of brings us from the ether, where we went with the High Priestess, back to Mother Earth. She's sometimes called Mother Earth as well. She's all about fertility, growth, and birth of the new. And it's very much, she's on the physical level. Like I said, she brings us back to Earth. And she's a reminder of the continuation of the birth cycle, how it always, you know, it's always happening. And she also reminds us that, you know, it's not just birth of babies, right? Anything you're giving birth to, like if you're writing a novel, if you're creating a painting, if you're starting a business, if you're even starting a new job, can be like giving birth, right? Moving from one house to another, building a new house, you know, anything like that where you're creating a new situation, environment, literally a new thing. If you're like creating a book or a painting or a house or something like that, is very much like giving birth. So there's a lot of chaos. It's messy. You want to quit halfway through. Any woman who's given actual birth labor-wise or has been in labor, even if it ended in a C-section, you know, a few hours in, you're like, okay, wait, hold on. I want to stop. Don't want to do this anymore. So we've all been there, right? So she kind of, like many of us give up in life. You can't give up when you're in the middle of labor. Unfortunately, you have to keep going. But when it comes to other laborious tasks and creative projects and situations that we've been in, many of us give up when it gets the most painful, when the road really gets bumpy or there's a lot of challenges. And we tend to stop right before we're about to get what we want, right before it's about to be finished, right? And this card, when it shows up in a reading, it's about abundance coming into your life. It's also a reminder to keep going. Keep going. When this card shows up, if someone's saying, well, you know, I've been working on it, I don't know, let's see what the cards say. If this card shows up, it means keep going, because whatever you're trying to build or whatever you're trying to create, because sometimes you feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall and maybe it's just not meant to be. And it's usually when you hit that wall that the universe is really just asking you, how bad do you really want it? You know, how much strength do you have in you to push through that wall? So when this card shows up, it means, yeah, you're not wasting your time. It might feel like you're hitting your head against a wall, but keep going. You're gonna break through. This is a breakthrough card. So I love when the Empress shows up because nothing but good things happen. And her river is flowing under her smoothly, calmly, because she's all about that stillness and that peace and that meditative state. Her river over here is flowing down like a waterfall, because it's like the dam burst and now the water's coming in. So that's the difference between these waters. So everything about her is about things flowing into your life. So when this card shows up, it means definitely keep going. Things are flowing into your life. Abundance is coming. All that good stuff. She's a bit of a cheerleader, which is great. She's a mom, right? Moms are good cheerleaders. So she's the mother of the maiden, mother, crone, the 3 stages of the women, of a woman's life. And she's number 3. 3 is an initiative number. It's about moving forward. And I'm going to get more into numerology of the tarot as well in another video. There's going to be tons of videos. You're going to learn lots of stuff. So I'm going to stop there at the Empress and I'll keep going with another video. So I hope you enjoyed those first 4 cards of the Major Arcana. Thanks for joining me.